started this journey on January 19th, 2010. Tiger Woods was in the middle of a funeral. Conan O'Brien's show was canceled, and the world was watching the relief efforts in Haiti after the devastating earthquake that occurred on January 12th. Your first day in the nursing program was the end of a long battle for a seat into your future. You have harassed the A&P professors for your A. They tell us about it all the time. You've taken the dreaded PSB, which was really a walk in the park compared to some of those third semester exams. And you called Dr. Ard an average of 14.6 times per person to find out if your ticket to the future would arrive. You worked very hard to get here. Many of you made tremendous changes in your lives to be sitting in your chair today. In your class alone, for those who don't know, there are social workers, paramedics, LVNs, many previous executives from world-renowned companies, a physician, single fathers, single mothers, children of physicians and professors, and we have honored veterans of military service to our country, just to name a few. Your class is amazing. I've been blessed to hear many of the stories of your decisions to follow the desires of your heart and become nurses. Some of you are fulfilling lifelong dreams of over 20 years and more to finally become members of America's most trusted profession. Many of you actually heard a call to your lives to totally change direction, to be obedient to what you feel is God's directive, to care for those who need you. Nursing school has been hard. We acknowledge that, but it should be. You should have questioned everything and have had big questions about everything that you've done because it's that important. You'll be the first defense for your patients against harm. You are the most important person in the healthcare team, where you will carry out the directions of physicians and have the opportunity to question the actions of others before the patient receives care. Nursing focuses on holism of care. We worry about the fact that there's no electricity in the home of a patient that needs to go home with an oxygen concentrator, and that a patient with multiple sclerosis has no air conditioning in the middle of the summer. When the physician writes the dismissal order for a patient, we are the ones to find out that the patient has no clothes to wear home because they were cut off in the emergency room, and we find those clothes for our patients. Nurses are superheroes that are allowed to take part in the most intimate moments of people's lives. We're given permission to witness moments no one would believe if you told them. There is a magical side of healing that awaits you, and I want to encourage you all to look for that because it will change your life forever. I've received so many lessons in my 30 years as a registered nurse. Some of them were embarrassing, I admit. And I cherish my nursing degree more than I could have imagined when I sat where you are so many years ago. It's become who I am without the ability to be separate. Many of the trials that have come in my professional life have come to serve me in other situations. The patient assignments that have torn my heartstrings the most have been the greater aspects of the situation that I can't see at the time they're happening. One such time occurred in room 502 in the pediatric intensive care unit where I worked. I received a new admission of a 2-year-old little boy I'll call Caleb. He was admitted with a temperature of 105 and his left leg was purple and cold. He'd been sick for 4 days with a high fever and with what the physician had said was a virus. Tylenol and Motrin had failed to decrease his temperature, and his mother and father had finally decided to take him to the emergency room that morning when his leg turned blue. He was admitted to our unit under the care of a very special pediatric intensivist. His parents waited in the waiting room for us as we took him to the radiology unit for tests. Upon returning to the unit, the physician decided to insert a central line for IV access because we had had such a hard time starting an IV. Caleb lay very still the entire time, and that's not normal for a 2-year-old. He was either sleeping from fighting off whatever was making him ill, or he was losing his hold on life. He never drew back from last sticks on the painful procedures we performed, and I knew this wasn't normal, and his physician and I were both really quite concerned for his survival. After I cleaned him up from the procedure and dressed Caleb's IV site, I called the waiting room to have his parents come to the room. Immediately after I hung up the phone from calling them, a previously quiet, still, lethargic Caleb opened his eyes widely and smiled the biggest smile I have ever seen to this day. He picked up both arms and with a deep guttural cry, raised the upper part of his body towards me as if he needed to be picked up. The fact that he was now more awake was warming and reassuring to me, and I reached down to hold him. Something happened at that moment that would change my life forever. He pushed me away and reached around me, aiming toward the broad bank of windows behind me. As he did so, I stepped backward and felt as if I'd stepped on someone's foot. In fact, I lost my footing and almost fell because of it. After I regained my footing, I turned around to see if perhaps someone had come into the room and I just didn't see them. The feeling that someone was there was that strong. I could see no one there. Once again, I looked at Caleb and he repeated his reach beyond me towards something, someone that he saw with the same smile upon his precious face. The look of excitement on his face was amazing. He held his outstretched arms for only a moment and fell back to the pillow on his little ICU bed. At that moment, I looked up to see his parents enter the outer lobby area of the PICU. They approached us with concerned looks on their faces and tears in their eyes from worrying over their baby boy. Unfortunately, as they entered the room, Caleb closed his beautiful blue eyes for the last time. We tried to save him, but his infection had overwhelmed him, and we could not help him. His parents were not able to hold him again with a beating heart. This incident in my career would have been enough on its own, but continues on with what I know now to be perfect timing. The child took hold of me in a way that I had never experienced before. What I had witnessed was not of this world, and I had never seen that before. I knew if I shared it with just anyone, I would be perceived as nuts, so I kept it close and to myself for the rest of the day. The more I thought it over, the more I realized I'd witnessed something very special. That Sunday when I went to our church, I shared that a family had lost their child and needed prayers. Careful to protect confidentiality, I didn't say a name or anything else with the group. I just asked them to remember this precious family in their prayers. After class that day, a couple from the class stopped me in the hall, and I knew them well because their son and my daughter went to school together, and they were in the youth group together, and we've been together on many occasions. The husband, Rick, had big tears in his eyes when he pulled me aside and said that he and his wife, Gina, were going to ask the class to pray for his sister and her husband because they had lost their only child that week to a deadly infection called strep A. It seems the pediatrician had misdiagnosed him, and in spite of her frequent phone calls to the office, the physician just kept telling the mother that Caleb had a virus that would pass. Finally, in desperation, they took their son to the emergency room, and he died that afternoon. We both knew in that instant who the child was. It was indeed Caleb. After hearing this, I shared my story of that special moment with him, where he saw something that was glorious and reached out to be carried by someone whom he wanted to go with very badly. We talked and hugged and shared healing between us. Rick shared with me that Caleb was the only child his sister would ever have. She'd been diagnosed with cervical cancer shortly after he was born and had had a hysterectomy. In fact, they had had much difficulty carrying Caleb to term, and she also suffered 3 miscarriages prior to Caleb being born. His death had left her unable to function, and she'd slipped into a deep, dark place that she couldn't come out of. Her family was afraid for her life, and they asked me if I'd be willing to meet with her and share what I had told them. I agreed to do just what they asked, willing to not keep this miracle to myself. I wrote the incident down as I've told you, and I gave it to his mother for her to read anytime she needed it. I met with them, and they were able to get answers to their questions, and her healing began that day. Coincidence? I don't think so. I learned a lesson through Caleb to begin to look for the spiritual side of life and death as a nurse. There are miracles, and we miss them because we're not open to see them. There are very special stories waiting for you, too, as you just have to discover them. Moments for you to learn from, and parents for you to impact. I know you will, simply because you have chosen this journey for your life. And finally, I have 5 simple truths before I let you leave us. The first one, remember to be careful how you treat your peers. Someday, you just might have to ask one of them for a job. Okay? Number 2, check, and recheck. Everything. One day, as a fairly new nurse, I was working in the recovery room and had orders to give a unit of blood stat. As a new nurse, I liked stat. That made me feel special. So I got my unit of blood connected the bag as tightly as I could to the blood tubing, and then I put a pressure bag around the blood and pumped it up high as I could get it. Just as I finished putting the maximum pressure around the blood bag, the tubing came loose from the blood bag, and the blood began to be emptied at the speed of light, only not into the patient, but onto me. My peers just stood wide-eyed laughing, silently in disbelief, as I reached up to close the bag with my fingers, because I thought that would help. This, of course, didn't work, and I ended up with blood from the bag traveling down my arm, into my pants, and my shoes. Did you know 1 drop of blood can cover 12 square miles? I know, because I still have blood on my body and find it frequently, even after 20 years. Okay, sometimes, number 3, things are not what they seem to be, or are they really? When I worked for an OB-GYN, we were to see a 16-year-old patient from a small town east of where I lived. The patient was thought to have an ovarian tumor. Her mother accompanied her to her appointment, as well as her dad who drove her. As the physician and I entered the room, I noticed her abdomen to be quite large and swollen. I'd never seen an ovarian tumor before, and I was very interested. Upon seeing her belly, the physician asked me to go and get the Doppler that we use to hear fetal heart tones. I was kind of puzzled by this, but I thought he probably knew something about diagnosing tumors that I didn't know, so I went and got it. When I gave it to him, he placed it upon her swollen stomach, and we all heard Now I get it. The tumor had a heartbeat. Oh, or did it? No tumor. She was quite pregnant. Her mother, who was standing nearby, literally slid down the wall and didn't faint. She was just shocked. The doctor told the little 16-year-old girl she was quite pregnant. To this, she stated, but he told me I couldn't get pregnant that way. I was sitting there thinking, is there a different way? She ended up leaving with follow-up appointments for prenatal care, and I heard her mother tell her, we will not tell your father till we get home, or else we'll have an accident. Number 4, always remember your 12 or 13 or 14 rites of medication administration. I took orders from a rather elderly physician for a patient who was admitted with a gastrointestinal leak. Among them was an order to give 5 milliliters of Mylanta IV push every 2 hours. I repeated the order to him while he sat nearby in a chair and asked him if he meant to give Mylanta by mouth. He angrily replied, no, I want it IV push. So again I said in my nicest voice, do you need Tagamet or Zantac? That was before all the proton pumps. And he became much more agitated even after that and said, are you having a hard time hearing me? I said, Mylanta IV push. So again, not sure of how to get my message to him, I went to the cabinet in the bedroom and brought him the Mylanta bottle and set it next to him. I showed it to him, opened it up for him to see, and asked my question again. To this, he just got up from his chair and left the unit. I learned that sometimes you just can't make sense of all situations. I phoned the medical director of the unit and let him figure it out, and I never gave up Mylanta IV push. And my final advice to you, number 5. Practice your comeback for angry physicians. You never have a one-liner when you need it. So, prepare it. One quite mean, spoiled, young, thoracic surgeon was known for his schizophrenic behaviors with nurses. Have you ever heard of that? No. One minute he was very friendly, and the next he could and did literally throw chart racks at people across the nursing station. As the nursing director for the floor, I had been hit the day before by his tirade about lab work not being on the chart when he made rounds. It certainly was not something I really had control over, but it was something he was willing to make my problem. So that night driving home, talking to myself as I often do, I decided to have a ready comeback if he ever showed that side of himself again. Sure enough, the next day he was back to see his patient, and the physician before him had used the last of the progress note in the chart. That was back when he actually wrote. The unit secretary had not had time to put another one in before he got there. And upon seeing this, Dr. Thoracic began to scream at me, you are incompetent. No one ever has it together on this floor. Your only job is to make sure I have everything I need when I come to this floor to see my my patient. Now, I knew this was bullying behavior, and I was ready today for his mouth. As we stood in the middle of the hallway, because he always made sure he had an audience when he was going to grill me, I said to him in a quite normal voice, "Dr. Thoracic, what would your mother say to you if she could see your behavior today?" To that, he shut his mouth, turned around, and left the unit, and he never, ever yelled at me, ever again. So, in closing, I will say, we, your nursing faculty, have cared enough about you and the patients you will serve to have given you all we can to make sure you're ready to face the next steps you have to take. And believe it or not, you are prepared to take it. The learning starts over again next week. Never forget to care as much as you possibly can. Okay? Never forget to care. It's not a bad thing. People need people. Okay? Be honest about your own humanity. Accept what you don't know and ask for help. Hold your patient's needs, not your doctor's, as the most important duty that you have. Congratulations, Angel.